You gonna count us down?
Do you want me to?
I feel like it's your thing. So I feel
Okay.
okay.
Oh my God, I didn't know I had a thing that was counting down. Okay, 3, 2, 1, record.
Boom. Did it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. So ready. I don't even know what we're talking. Well, do we have to kind of jump in.
You.
We have a actual time crunch today, which is probably a good thing. We should probably have one every week. Come to think of it. Yeah, you're doing the kayak like continued.
The kayak continued. And actually, if I feel like the kayak visited me this week with the storm Arwen that's like caused devastation everywhere. And we had a 2-day power cut and no mobile phone signal. And we were cut off from civilization. And that was a proper kayak experience. Maybe that was her spreading her freshly washed plaid over the land. I think she was, because it snowed as well. So it suddenly became like super snowy. She was ushering in winter.
Yeah. She does. It just conjures such a romantic, warm and cozy, even though it's like horrific.
It wasn't fucking warm and cozy. It was freezing.
I'm freezing, but I meant visually warm and cozy with this blanket hugging everyone, right? Decimating everyone's power, the whole power grid. Well, I'm glad it wasn't a 1 minute longer than 30 hours, because that's forever to have no power.
I know. Oh I think, but there are some people that still don't have power. So they've been like 60 hours with no power.
That's a long time. Yeah.
And it actually makes you realize how reliant you are on all the modern trappings of I think we've become too reliant, because suddenly I couldn't get in touch with anyone. And people were posting all these things on Facebook, like, if you're hungry and you have no heating and no way of cooking food, you can come to such and such village square and get a hot meal from this food truck. Yeah.
But if you don't know, if you can't get the message because you don't have internet. Yeah.
I didn't see any of those messages until it was too late, because they were online.
Right.
So the only people that saw them were the people that didn't need them. So there must be a way of going back to the 1980s.
I know. It is fascinating how you get so over dependent on it. That reminds me, super quick story. When I had little babies, like little tiny babies, and we were living way up in New Hampshire with the same long, snowy, freezing cold winters. We had lost power, and it was freezing in our house. It was like down to like 50 degrees. And Jack was a baby. And so I'm like, we need to leave. Like, let's leave and go to my parents' house because they have heat. Well, our cars were parked in our garage, and we had an electric car opener. So I literally like couldn't. And Sean was, of course, on a work trip, because everything horrible always happened while he was on a work trip. And I couldn't fucking get out of my garage. Oh my God. Then there was like a manual override, but I didn't know how to do it. And this was like before cell phones and Google, because it was only 2004. And so I had to like, get someone to give me directions so I could like manually override but I was like, I can't get my car out of the garage to drive it. Like, this is nuts. And you're like, God, this is way over reliance on electricity. Like, that's crazy time.
I know the most ridiculous thing with this storm was that the electricity company were posting updates on their website.
The irony, right?
Check the updates, but nobody could check the updates because nobody could get online.
Right. Was your cell service gone down too?
It was completely gone.
Wow.
No service. So the electricity went, which obviously took the Wi-Fi with it.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm still going to be able to use phone service,
right, or
but
data.
Just limit because of how quickly it drains your battery.
Right.
But then the signal went completely within half an hour or something after.
I was thinking of you the whole time. Well, I'm glad it was, 30 hours is forever, but I'm glad it was not 1 second more, and that you are out of it. And hopefully our kayak winter goddess is taking a little nap right now and will not bother you for a little bit while longer.
Thank you, kayak. Thank you for ushering in winter in super stroppy style.
Yeah.
Super stroppy style.
That's a good alliteration. I had a good time drawing the old hag version of her, by the way.
Yours is amazing.
For Celtic Collective. And I used the watercolor that I used was Kyanite Genuine from Daniel Smith, and it's super sparkly. So after it all dried, I looked, I'm like, oh my God, her face is like sparkling. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I knew it had that little sparkle, that little iridescent, but it's not, it's so subtle, you know, like it's so perfectly subtle. But
it's one of those ones that's crushed stone.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Yeah. It's so gorgeous though, and so subtle. I think I posted like an up close on Instagram, speaking of Instagram. But I was excited. She came out pretty cool. So what are we talking about? What's the extension? Did I not cover it all? What the heck?
I know you missed something out. Can you believe it?
I miss? I do believe it, actually.
So actually, this is just, it's like a sidestep. There's like it's like a wee connection. It's not that you missed anything out. It's just a little connection that I thought, oh, that's quite interesting.
Oh, neat.
This is something that I wanted to talk about for a while. I think I mentioned it in a previous episode, although I can't remember what episode that is. So don't go looking for it because it's probably not that interesting.
Good one. Good story. Thanks for that.
No, you're welcome.
Super helpful.
But yeah, so I discovered this mountain. It's called Schiehallion, and I discovered it while I was researching for another episode. I can't remember what episode that was. And I hadn't actually heard of this mountain before. I can't believe it. It's a part of my homeland, and I hadn't even heard of it. But Schiehallion is such an interesting mountain.
Oh,
there's
so
much folklore concerned with it that I had said back then, way back whenever it was, that I wanted to do a special episode, like a separate episode just on this mountain. So I decided this week to do Schiehallion. And then in my research, I realized that there was a kayak connection.
Very cool. Very cool.
So I was like,
that's perfect.
Kind of cool that it's connected to the thing that we did last week.
Yeah, very cool. I was reaching for my vintage Scottish map that I have yet to hang up because it's still sitting next to my desk. So my first question is just, where is this? Where is it? Is it on the west coast?
No, Schiehallion is a mountain in Perth and Kinross. So that's kind of in the central part of Scotland.
Oh, fascinating.
So it is, it's actually, interestingly enough, it lies between three lochs, Loch Tay, Loch Rannoch, and Loch Tummel. And Loch Rannoch, isn't that the one that they made the fake Craig Nadoon on for filming Outlander?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's I think they made a fake Craig Nadoon, the fake in, because obviously in the book it's supposed to be outside Inverness, but because they film in that central belt part of Scotland, they film at a place starting with C, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's near Stirling, I think, up that way. So in the bottom of Scotland, not right at the bottom, on the west coast you've got Glasgow, and on the east coast you've got Edinburgh. If you go inland from both of those and up a little bit, there's Stirling, which is where Stirling Castle is, which is where all the kings and queens of Scotland lived for, Mary Queen of Scots and that kind of thing. And then inland a little bit more from that is Perth and Kinross. There was for a very long time, I don't know if it still is running there, but yearly festival called Tea in the Park. Huge big festival in that area, Perth and Kinross. And so it's maybe 2 and a bit hours south of me. So it's kind of in the central part of Scotland.
Perfect.
So it's actually also called the Mound of the Caledonians, and the Caledonians are those mountains there, but Schiehallion is also actually just known as the Fairy Hill.
Oh, no way.
No, which is why we're talking about it, Karen. Come on, let's face it. That's why we're talking about it.
My favorite part of every episode.
It's our favorite thing.
Yes.
Series. But before we get into the fairy aspect, while I was looking up this mountain, I also discovered something really interesting about it, which I hadn't realized, which is this mountain in the 1700s, 1774 to be exact, was actually used as an experiment in order to estimate the mass of the earth.
Oh.
Now, I will go into this a little bit, but I actually don't understand any of the scientific mumbo jumbo.
Why don't you give us a super dumbed down?
Well, I would give you a super dumbed down if I understood what the hell I was reading.
Right.
But I don't.
So you're going to give us the highbrow and just hope that we get it?
Like read it off the Wikipedia page.
My ears are white. I'm gonna also find.
I'm gonna give you like a super short version.
I'm taking notes. I just realized. So don't want to
learn any of this from me because I don't know what I'm talking.
You're not selling it very well. You're like, I'm about to tell you something that I don't understand.
How do you estimate the mass of the Earth? That just makes no sense to me. What the fuck's that? Is that like how do you put the Earth on weighing scales? Is mass about?
Suck at all forms of science, so you are asking the wrong person. But I'm all ears. Let's have a go. Let's have a listen. Can't wait.
Well, I'm not really giving you anything because what I wrote in brackets, which Americans call parentheses, but we call brackets, is I don't understand a word of this.
Oh my God. No. Great. I'm so glad we're talking about it. And I'll have nothing to add, I'm sure.
The funniest takeaway that I got from it was that the guy who organized all of this was called Charles Manson.
Oh, that's so funny. That's actually funny.
Yeah, but not the Charles Manson. 200 years before Helter Skelter happened.
All right, let's hear it. There's a lot of buildup, so I'm excited.
A lot of anticipation for a very big letdown.
Let's do it.
So in 1774, this guy Charles Manson decided on Schiehallion as the place where they were going to estimate the mass of the Earth. I think it was something to do with possibly the shape of it and where it was situated, but I don't know why. Apparently it's a really nice conical mountainy shape mountain.
Okay. Ooh.
Like a nice aesthetically
with a peak on top
mountain.
Okay.
Like if a child was going to draw a mountain, that's what they would draw, except
like an upside down V.
Yeah, but actually 15 years of teaching in primary school has taught me that children don't draw mountains like that. They draw bumps.
Okay.
Like a upside down U. And I have to spend all my time saying that's not what a mountain shaped like.
Let's stay focused on the scientific material that we're not going to understand.
I'm trying to put it off. Did you not get?
Just get to the point.
Yeah.
I'm like waiting.
I am skipping over it. Basically, it was something to do with I'm going to read I'm going to just quote it. The deflection of a pendulum by the mass of the mountain provided an estimate of the mean density of the Earth. Does that mean anything to you?
No. My only follow-up question.
Let's get on to fairies.
My only question, just because you brought it up, is was it an accurate representation?
Well, basically what it led to the contour lines like you would get on maps.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's cool. So they did get something out of it. It was all not for naught.
Something to do with that, but I really don't understand. Okay. So if you're still with us, don't worry, we're getting on to fairies. It's a lot more scientific and a lot more interesting.
Okay, great. You can always next time just cut to the fairy part.
Yeah, that would be good.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I did find it interesting that it was used for that. That is kind of cool that they used this mountain for this big scientific experiment.
Especially that long ago.
Hadn't been done before in the 1700s. So that is cool, but yeah, we have no idea what it is. The main interesting part about this mountain is that it's known as the Fairy Mountain. It has a huge lot of legend associated with the hill. It's got remains of a holy well on it, which, just like the one in Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, which we've spoken about before, was used on May Day, which is Beltane, and visitors would come and they would leave offerings to the fairies, and that well is called the Maiden Well. There are stories of a phantom dog that has been seen several times, a big black dog that haunts the lower slopes of the hill. And scary. Those kinds of black dogs are quite often known as being an omen of death. I think there's a quote in this book about the dog. So I'm going to read this one out first. This is from Witchcraft and the Second Sight in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland by John Gregerson Campbell, who's one of our our faves, our babes, our book babes.
That's a good one.
I know. On the skirts of Schiehallion, the steepest and one of the highest hills in the kingdom, there is a small loch or tarn near Crossmount in Lower Rannoch, the vicinity of which about 50 years ago was the scene of strange terrors at night. The road leading over the shoulder of the hill to Weem lay along the shores of this lake, and where it was crossed by a small stream that falls into the loch, those who passed that way after dark were scared by strange sights. After crossing the ford, the traveller was accompanied for about 20 yards by a dog, a he-goat. I don't know what a he-goat is and why it's different from a she-goat, but he-goat, a dark moving mass or some other object, which from the unaccountable manner of its appearance and disappearance could not be deemed earthly.
That's scary.
A native of Kilconnen in Rannoch, who had been for some time in the south as a gardener, came on a visit to his friends and had to pass in the neighbourhood of the loch. It was ascertained that at Casheville, where he left the Strath of the Tay to cross the skirts of Schiehallion, he had taken a drink of porter. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's port. It was 14 days before it was ascertained he never reached Kilconnen, so he disappeared.
Ooh. Yeah. I wonder how they got the story if he disappeared.
Yeah, so this guy had too much to drink and walked around the mountain and disappeared. A search was instituted. Men gathered from Appin and Athol and Rannoch and the whole country round about and continued the search for 3 or 4 days, even as far as Glen Lyon, but without success. One of the exploring parties, when above Crossmount, was met by a woman who advised them to search around Lochen Doimig. I don't know how you say that. For she had dreamt last night she was cutting rushes there. Soon after, a man met them who gave them the same advice and said he had had the same dream.
Ooh.
On going round the loch, they found the dead gardener lying on a green mound on the brink of a stream, already mentioned as crossing the road, in the attitude in which he had stretched himself to take a drink.
Ooh.
Strange goings on in the banks of Schiehallion. I know.
Oh, that's so creepy.
I know.
Like he's like in mid-action and then just froze and died. That's creepy.
Froze and died. So John Gregerson Campbell wrote Witchcraft in the Second Sight in the Highlands Islands in Scotland in the 1800s?
1860, I think. Something.
Yeah, so these are stories from people that lived in the area earlier to that. So yeah, so this phantom black dog, there's stories of this phantom black dog that haunts the lower slopes of the hill. And the thing that Schiehallion is most known for, and when I was doing my research, I was finding a lot of websites of contemporary hill walkers that were on the hunt for this. So they had heard the stories from Schiehallion, and they were searching, they were going out to search for trying to find the mystical enchantment of the hill.
So they weren't looking for the dog. They were looking for the general like fairy fantasy part of it.
Well, because there is a cave on Schiehallion that I'm going to butcher the name, but it's called Tom Amor Fair. Something in Gaelic. And it actually translates as Cave of the Knoll of the Big Man. And apparently it is supposed to be the entrance to the other world and the dwelling place of Queen Mab, who is the queen of the fairies. So the mountain itself has folklore that it is actually entrance into the other world.
Wow.
One of the entrances. Yeah.
So people are specifically looking for that entrance then.
Yeah. And I saw some really cool photos that some people had found the cave and some really cool photos. But obviously the thing about this cave is that because it's run by the fairy folk, that they will hide it from people. They will hide the entrance so that you can't find it. There's a lot of visitors that say that they go looking for the cave and they can't find the entrance, or it just looks like a regular cave. It's like unless they want you to see the entrance into the other world. So the bit that actually goes into the other world is hidden from view.
So for anyone who can't find it, it was hidden. And for anyone who did find it, they can report back their tales. Are there photos?
Or they disappear.
Right.
Or they disappear.
We never hear.
Never to be seen again.
Is Queen, is it Moab? Isn't it like Moab? Am I making that up?
It was written here Mab, but I think the two are the same, and one is the Irish spelling.
I was gonna say, isn't one Irish? And is there a Scottish variation of that?
Well, I Googled her because I wanted to know my stuff, even though I still don't. But she's kind of got Shakespearean connections. So in Shakespeare, she was supposed to be the midwife to the fairies. So she was the fairies' midwife.
Okay.
But she also granted wishes to people who were dreaming. So if they dreamt about something, she would grant it as a wish. And in Scottish folklore, she's a bit similar in that she is this tiny fairy who would visit people when they were sleeping and then take their dreams and fulfill it as a wish. So that actually sounds like quite a nice fairy, although I bet she's not all together.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sure there's a twist. There's some dark twist that we just
and then in other words, she's the queen of the fairies. So I think there is possibly some crossover or some double meanings with her name. She's seen as being different people depending on where it is. But Schiehallion and the cave is the dwelling place of Queen Mab and the entrance to the other world.
That's super cool.
I know.
That's very cool.
I'm going to read you out some quotes that were taken much earlier about that and about Schiehallion. But before I do, I'm just going to mention a few other things about the mountain. It's a super interesting mountain. So I've spoken about the Holy Well. There's also on the western side of the mountain, it says there's a point where two burns meet, and there's a rock that has Neolithic cut markings. So these cut markings in the stone And that's actually supposed to be really close to the cave where the fairies are said to live.
So if you see that, then that's like a trail marker almost.
Yeah.
Like you're on your way.
Yeah, like a marker so that you can find it, I guess, if the fairies want you to find it. The lochs surrounding Schiehallion are also rich in folklore about water spirits, as a lot of Scotland is. And it was also thought that that in slightly more recent times, I'm not talking 50 years ago, I'm talking, instead of being like 5,000 years ago, maybe hundreds of years ago, it was supposed to be used like a holy mountain. People would go there for holy reasons, and then also it was supposed to also be a hiding place of the Templars.
Oh, that's cool.
And Templar knights are rumored to have hidden in the caves that were on the hill.
Oh, wow.
Whether they went off to Fairyland or not, we don't know.
Bet they went.
Maybe they never came back. I know.
Can you tell me the spelling of this mountain? I just wonder, is it so like majestic looking that it's because it seems to have transcended, almost cultures and religions and been used for all sorts of scientific things and, mythical things and mystical things. It must look a certain way. Is it particularly
Schiehallion? Schiehallion.
While you continue telling me cool things, I want to just see a picture of it.
It looks absolutely beautiful. It's a very popular hill walking mountain, which I am not surprised because it just looks so beautiful, and also in quite a unspoiled part of Scotland. I would love to go. I can imagine going there with a tent and camping. It would just
do people like
so
to
lovely.
bag it? Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a Monroe. So the Cailleach connection is that the Cailleach that's supposed to be one of her haunts, her mountain. And there's actually what's called a kayaks. I'm not pronouncing. Is it Cailleach or kayak?
I think it depends on who's saying it. I've heard it both ways.
So there's actually an area of the Schiehallion called the Cailleach's Furrow, and it's patterns in the rocks. And according to legend, that is where the kayak has been with her plow, and she's created furrows in the rocks there.
Cool.
I know.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's just a beautiful mountain.
Yeah.
It's really pretty. It is like a quintessential like painting. It's like a Bob Ross subject where it's like snow peaks, and on one side it's all snow, and the other side it's kind of craggy rock.
I know it's like your typical Bob Ross.
It really painting.
Is. Bob Ross would have been really got in there with his palette knife and done there.
He's probably painted it 56,000 times. Well, no, it's just nice to like have a visual on it, which sounds silly, but I guess being an artist, I'm a visual person, and I want to kind of know what
Maybe
I'm looking at.
Maybe we should do Bob Ross style paintings of it.
Totally should.
Wait a wig while we're doing it.
Yes. Yep.
After we're hair up, that would look so funny. Or some 1970s jeans.
Yes. I already have the cardboard cutout. I could actually just stand next to him and we could paint together.
That's cheating.
I digress. I have a lot of cardboard cutouts.
That's cheating.
So that's super cool.
So I have some quotes from earlier books that I was just being lazy, and instead of paraphrasing, I thought I would just read you the quotes out, and I've got a super cute little story about Schiehallion as well.
Oh, cool. I'm all ears.
I know.
That's not being lazy. That's like first person sources. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So this one apparently comes from the Reverend Robert MacDonald, and he was a former minister in Fortingal, and his book was called The New Statistical Account for Scotland in Perthshire, and it was published in 1845. And he wrote, there is a very remarkable cave near the southwest angle of Schiehallion at the Schiehallion called Tomamorir. I can't pronounce it. Or the Earl's Eminence. Some miles to the east, there is an opening in the face of a rock, which is believed to be the termination thereof. So I think he meant that the cave actually goes through the mountain for several miles.
Oh, wow.
Several stories are told and believed by the credulous relating to this cave that the inside thereof is full of chambers or separate apartments, and that as soon as a person advances a few yards, he comes to a door, which the moment he enters closes, as it opened of its own accord, and prevents his returning.
Oh, that would be so freaky to go in a cave that's miles long. That would be
a little bit Indiana Jones, isn't it?
Creepy. And you just keep going and going and like hope you come out on another side, or you turn around and miles. That's super freaky.
I know. Did you? I saw some post online a little while ago about some town that they'd found underground. I can't remember what country it was in, and basically somebody had been doing renovations on their house or something and had knocked through the earth and had found all these tunnels that dated from thousands of years ago.
No way.
And it was that the inhabitants from that time had lived underground, and it was like it was a rabbit warren of caves.
Oh, that's super weird.
I'd feel really claustrophobic if I had to live underground.
Yeah, that reminds me, when I was in Iceland, you can go explore the volcanic tubes underground, because the lava like creates all these underground. They look like ants, tunnels, but you can actually go down them. It's super, super creepy. Some of them are just so deep. I mean, I don't know what these humans are even doing under there, but just to think that like under you is this giant hollow space, that goes down just meters and meters.
Well, then you could take it a step further and you could start to speculate, is there a whole population? Maybe that's where fairies do live. Whole population underground that lives underground that we don't know anything about.
We know they're there. What are you talking about?
There was an episode of Doctor Who several years ago where they go underground and there's all these lizard people that are living underground in like a whole other society underground. And I love to imagine that might be the case. Maybe
it sounds like these caves are where most of this action is happening on this mountain.
Oh yeah, this is where the fairies are. It's where the fairies are. It's where
fascinating. Yeah.
And
you said you had another story too, right?
I do. I've got some quotes. Yeah, I've got some quotes and some stories. So that guy carries on. I've got a few quotes from him, and some of what he says is repeating, but he said that that cave slants into total darkness. It goes into the bowels of the earth. According to traditional accounts, this cave was regarded as an abode of the fairies and other supernatural beings, rather than a hiding place of mortals. The only men who were supposed to have lived there were individuals who were believed to have been in league with supernatural powers.
Oh, heck yeah.
I know, I find it interesting. Somebody in 1845 is still writing in that way.
Yes, for sure. I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
So somebody else had quoted, there's a famous cave at the foot of Schiehallion where tradition has it fairies love to dwell. There, it is said mortals from time to time dwelt among them, and interesting stories are told of the strange ways in which they were rescued from their power.
Ooh.
Behind Schiehallion, again, on Craig Schiehallion.
You just got to go with those.
You gotta go with the
you
weird.
Just say it. Well, we would never know.
Be like strong in your conviction of the crappy pronunciation.
Just be confident. Yep.
Is one of the spots where the old Schiehallion warriors were supposed to lie on their elbows awaiting the third blast of the horn that is to raise them to life again.
Oh,
I know. And actually, I apologize because I didn't Google that further and find out what that was about.
Ooh. That's a little terrifying, actually.
Yeah.
So that's where all the craziness is, I guess. Is they're all happening.
I feel like I want to go there in a tent and see.
Oh God. And camp out in the caves.
Camp out and see what happens.
That would be terrifying.
Here's another traditional quote. The Schiehallion, or the hill of the Downashee, or the Fairies Hill. If all the tales one hears related by old natives of Rannoch could be fully relied on, Schiehallion in days of yore used to be a favourite resort of the fairy folks, and more especially once a year when all the various tribes throughout Glen Lyon, Rannoch and Strathtumnall congregated. Here they used to assemble in large numbers and hold their annual convocation, presided over by the beautiful and accomplished Queen Mab, gorgeously arrayed in her favourite green silk robes, with her abundant crop, beautiful golden yellow hair waving in long ringlets over her shoulder down to her waist. It is said that there are a long series of mysterious caves extending from one side of the mountain to the other.
That's amazing. We're going to need to draw her for sure.
Oh, I think we definitely need to do it.
You should make sure you save that little snippet of a sentence, because what an awesome visual that
This is on my Pages document on my computer. So
okay, well, good, because I need to look at that more closely. And then commence illustrating. That's amazing.
So I have a funny story for you about Schiehallion, and it is in the Lore of Scotland book.
Oh, do I have? I do have that one. Yes.
Yeah, you do. But before I go on to that, I've also got a funny, fascinating snippet of information as well.
Hit me.
Which is that in the film, The Fairy Faith, you've watched it, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched it. Do you remember there was a guy who recounted a story about encountering fairies that tried to roll his shadow up?
I do remember that, although I don't remember it from that. I remember listening to about that on the fairy podcast. But actually, it was that podcast that led me to watch the Fairy Faith movie. Yeah. So yes, which is a fascinating story and concept. Your shadow would have its own like entity, as its own entity. And that you can roll it up. It
kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Super freaky. Yes.
Yeah. And it actually kind of makes me feel a little bit like that in the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast, the 2D person is like a shadow.
Yeah.
Like just a shadow. So it's like they've stolen someone's shadow, and it's the shadow behaving on its own without the person almost.
It is definitely some eerie shit for sure.
Yeah. So if you haven't managed to watch The Fairy Faith, I think it's available on I think you can just buy it on iTunes or something to watch, or possibly Apple TV.
I think it's like $5. It's not much.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting film. I think it was made several decades ago, and it's a guy that goes to various different places and talks to people that have had encounters with fairy folk. And in one encounter, he's speaking to this guy who was just camping. I think he was out hill walking and camping, and he had this strange encounter where he heard some strange music, and then he looked over and he saw two fairies trying to roll up his shadow. And apparently this happened very near to Schiehallion.
Oh, cool connection. Yeah. Lucy, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think I'd made that connection when I watched the film, because I don't think I even really knew what Schiehallion was when I watched that film. So I just thought, oh, he's in the countryside in Scotland.
Yeah.
really
that's
make any connection.
A very cool kind of circle back to that, because
so maybe they
I want to rewatch that. Well, if it's the fairy mountain, then that would make sense. There's already magical things going on there. That's fascinating.
Want to hear a funny story?
Yes, I do.
Two friends. This is from the Lore of Scotland podcast.
I'm like, you mean the book that you're holding?
God, this is from the Lore of Scotland book.
Yes.
We're
prepared
for our podcast this week.
And by the way, if you want a comprehensive listing of all of our books that we use to research, you can go to our website, which is onescot1not.com. And I actually have a tab that's books, and it has all of all of these resources we just keep there for you. So if you want to learn more, you can go check them out there.
Yeah.
With that in mind, go for it. I'm ready.
Yeah, this is a great book. This one is full of some interesting information about the whole of Scotland. It just goes through all of the areas, and it's got loads of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And so it's got a funny story about Schiehallion. Two friends who were hunchbacks lived.
They were both funny already. Hunchbacks. They're both like hunchback friends, besties. We need to come up with a good cute term for that. Oh my, okay.
Better than incesty besties.
Yeah, I don't think we can beat incesty besties or purgatory pals. I'm gonna have to think on this one. I'm not quite as spontaneously gifted in this episode.
Quit thinking.
I'm gonna work on it while you keep going. Okay. Hunchback. Oh, keep going.
How could they were obviously, maybe they spotted each other across a crowded room at a dance, and they were like, "You're my soulmate because your back is hunched like mine."
Oh God, dear,
I'm never gonna feel ugly around you, so you're gonna be my best friend.
Oh my
God, you're just as ugly as I am.
Wow. They're special. They're just special. All right, I have to go in a minute, so I can't wait to hear this funny story.
Two friends who were hunchbacks lived on opposite sides of Schiehallion, one at Braes of Foss on the east side, the other near Tempar on the west. Every Sunday one would visit the other, turn and turn about. One fine summer evening, the Braes of Foss hunchback set out to visit his friend. As the weather was fine, he went a long way round, and it was near to midnight as he drew near to a little low cave by a burn below a knoll, where he heard voices and the patter of tiny feet. Continuing more carefully, he saw fairies dancing above the knoll. Over and over again, they were singing the same things. Saturday, Sunday. Entranced by their singing, the man had a burning desire to join in, and finally he burst in at the end with Monday, Tuesday. I'm trying to think. There's like some song, isn't there, where they like Mondays something is. I'm trying to think.
Monday, la, la.
Or the Cure, that song by the Cure. Like I'm in Saturday.
Yes. Which is weird because the book I'm reading right now, the woman's name is Thursday. How weird is that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you'll get there because he went Monday, Tuesday, and then the hunchback, who had a fine voice, and the fairies danced around and round in delight, singing the whole phrase. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Sounds like a rocking tune.
Yeah.
At last, some of them approached the man. One said to another, "What do you wish for him who gives such a lovely new words for our song?"
Oh my God.
We ask. I haven't even got on to reading our Outlander fanfic yet, and I'm laughing. We ask that his hump will fall off.
Oh,
so that he will stand straight as a rush.
Oh.
We wish him also the best of health, said another fairy, and that he has plenty to the end of his days, said a third. Taking his farewell of the fairies, the man went on his way, light of heart and light of step. Now he was as upright as a soldier.
Oh.
His friend hardly recognized him when he arrived. I bet he was jealous.
I was so mad. Yeah. You'd be like, what? We had a deal. We're hunchback friends.
We were hunchback besties and you got rid of yours. He explained how he'd met the fairies and added to their song, "I'll do the same," said the hunchback of temper, and he immediately hurried off. When he reached the knoll, he heard the fairies singing, "Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday," and he immediately added in a loud, harsh, unpleasant voice, "Wednesday, Thursday."
Oh my God, so good.
Never heard a tune so cool as that. Just the days of the week. As soon as the fairies heard him, they stopped dancing and dragged him to the ground, jumping on him and pinching him.
Oh
no! Angry fairies came forward saying, "What shall we do to the man who spoils our song?" "Make his hump too," said one. "Let him be the ugliest man alive," said a second. "And may he grow bigger and bigger to his death day," said a third.
Oh, that's not nice.
The man made his way painfully home, hardly able to walk, partly because of the 2 humps he now carried.
Oh no, he's like a camel. That's awful.
Dromedary friends. Dromedary friends. Is that what they're called?
I don't know. There's 1 hump and there's 2 hump camels too, and I can never remember which one is which.
Campbell the Campbell.
I did just say Campbell, didn't I? Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're supposed to not hear
Campbells. That. There's 2 humpy candles.
2 humpy candles. That's something altogether, yet still even different. Oh my God. Oh crap. I have to go pick up my son. Hit me. Quick.
He was so big and ugly and disfigured now by 2 humps. All too soon he had grown too big to get into his house. So he had to sleep outside, summer and winter alike. It took 17 blankets to cover him.
Oh.
This went on as the fairies had promised to the day he died, by which time he was so big it took 20 coffins to hold him.
Oh. Got it. He became like a mountain of itself.
I know.
Poor thing. That's those evil fairies, though. They're so tricky.
This story was told in 1989. I think it maybe means 1889, but maybe not, by A.D. Cunningham, former expeditions master at Rannoch School, who used to take pupils walking and exploring the countryside in around Rannoch, which is next to Schiehallion. And he speaks about the cave and the burn where the cut marks are.
Mm-hmm.
One thing Cunningham does not comment on is how the events of the story could take place largely at night, the second hunchback's journey being after midnight. Notwithstanding the long twilight of northern summers, the terrain they had to cross to get to the cave is not even easy by broad daylight. This bit's boring. I'm gonna cut this bit out.
I know. I literally have to go too. So can you?
Do we have time for a funny fanfic?
I'm supposed to be leaving, but go ahead. I told my son I'll be a minute. But okay. It depends. Can you quickly wrap up?
I'm sure we can.
And what are you reading?
So those poor hunchback guys were just ruined by the fairies at Schiehallion. But do you know what I found that was even funnier? While I was doing my research for this thing, I stumbled across a whole website of Outlander fanfic, but it's Outlander fanfic devoted to a love story between Kate and Sam Hewen.
Oh, right. The actors of Outlander.
And in this blog post, apologies to the person who wrote this. I'm not going to name it in case they ever listen to this and they're super embarrassed, because it's kind of funny, but it's kind of cringe and it's also kind of cute. Apologies to that person if they ever hear this and they are annoyed that I read out some of their story and that I'm making fun of it. But synopsis: Sam and Katrina are nearing their destination. They're on a trip to Schiehallion. And they're away to see Schiehallion in all its glory. Katrina is inquisitive about her first Munro climb, and she has many questions. And Sam, being an excellent Scots storyteller, is only too happy to fill in the gaps. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Kate says, "Oh, Sam, thank you. I'm glad we took a detour. It's so beautiful here. This is one of the most photographed areas of Scotland, Kate. I can see why. It's very picturesque. Is that Mount Schiehallion over the loch? It looks very pointy mountain. Will it be difficult to climb?" "It is, but it shouldn't be too arduous for you, honey. It's not as steep as North Berwick Loch, and you climbed that without much trouble." Turning her head away from the view, she replied, "Yes, I did, didn't I? And in heeled boots, too." Sam captured Katrina's hand and is nonchalantly massaging her fingers while his eyes portrayed the conviction of his next words. "Mount Schiehallion will be a breeze this time, and I would never let you climb a Mundo that was too taxing for your first one. You'll do fine, my love. Well, I have you to piggyback me if I can't."
Oh,
it goes on and on
my
and on.
God. I
know my
words.
eyes nearly popped out of my skull. Sam and Kate have a big love story on the banks of Schiehallion. Kate remembered the shared kisses at the monument and the shock she felt being carried on Sam's back.
Can you, I just want to see a behind the scenes video of Sam and Kate when they like are listening to this or they read this. Are they just, they would just laugh for like a day.
I know. Do you think they ever find it?
I bet you they do. I bet you they do. I bet you.
Because I only find it because I Googled Schiehallion.
Yeah, but I bet you could find it other ways. But I bet if the producer was smart, they would have them read them out. Have you ever seen like celebrities reading like mean tweets?
No.
Oh, you don't? You should Google Kit Harington reading mean tweets, and they read out like all the mean things that people say. It is fucking hilarious, and they're like dying because they're the meanest things ever. So I feel like it would be in a similar vein to that. It's like
Can embarrassing. You imagine if they read them out? I feel horrifying. Like they should read this out.
I feel like they should totally do that. Well, that's a great point to end on. I have to totally run. I have all these children that I actually have to care for and give rides to. So I'm so
other
sorry.
Things to do is really great at forcing us not to babble shit.
I know. And
at
yet,
the beginning and the end of our podcast.
And when I go and pick Billy up, he's going to ream me for being as late as I am. So on that note, I have to go. That was a brilliant ending note though. And
we'll see you all next time.
See you next week. Bye.